Hello, good evening and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedstead Junction. Now the train you can see going around at the moment is a Class 2P locomotive. A very, very special one to me, and it's been one of my interests for some considerable time. Now you do know, obviously from seeing all my other railway videos, I'm mainly a collector of GWR stuff. Okay, being Bristolian, Great Western Railway is going to be one of my favourites, obviously. But one of the things that actually ran through the West Country, if for those of you who are not aware of this, was the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Ran really by after about the 1930s by the Midland Railway and the Southern Railway. I do believe that the original branch ran from Burnham-on-Sea down to Bournemouth. But then they did build an extension then from Everbeach Junction into Bath. Okay, and that's where this journey northbound with the Pines is actually described. Now these were actually allowed to carry a 200-ton load over the Somerset and Dorset from Bath to Everbeach and from Everbeach to Bath. Okay, so and that's where most of the actual filming you'll probably see, or most people want to see. But obviously reading this book is what made me decide finally to get this Class 2P locomotive. So I read about Donald Beale. At the time he was a fireman, okay, and he was firing the engine on the northbound Pines Express. Now the train we're looking at as well, there's the actual model itself. Now this particular one is 20 years old, okay. So we need to give it some sort of poetic license as well. Now what we've got here is a Hornby model, and it's R2217 S&DJR 440 Class P 2P locomotive number 44. Now there's something which we always did with these locomotives with Hornby. On the instruction you can see is R2217 again, and it's all 8th of March 2001. Okay, so that's the instruction leaflet. Now the actual motor is in the tender on these particular locomotives. That to me, I don't mind. I mean, I've been collecting locomotives for over 30 years now. And it doesn't matter to me. I mean, if it's loco powered or tender powered, as long as it runs smoothly around the track. You will find that these are slightly noisier than the loco driven ones, but again, that for me is not too much of a problem. Okay. Now, one thing I had to do with this particular model was to give it a good oiling. The actual wheels on the locomotive weren't rotating very well. And so I just actually ordered the actual axle, all the axles and the coupling rods, and now it's running absolutely perfectly, as you can see. Now it's coaching stock. Again, what kind of coaching stock will you have with this? I've got some Midland Railway coaches on order to go with it, because obviously it's a Midland Railway engine. But for the purpose of tonight, it's putting some Great Western Clerestory coaches. Okay, now apparently, from what I can gather, the Midland Railway ones made by Hornby with rich Clerestory coaches, and the Great Western ones, the Midland and Great Western, were very, very similar to each other. So I think again we're going to take a little bit of poetic license with this actual rolling stock we're pulling. So I haven't got any Midland Railway stock. Like I said, I've got some on order. I might have to find some again on that great auction site eBay. Now you'll see it's running very, very well. Okay, and we'll show her how she runs. Okay, the things you might be interested in about running is what's it like over points. Essentially, if you wish to do any kind of running of an interesting nature. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put her into the station, and then we might decide to have a closer look at her as well. Okay, so we'll stop her at the signal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her into both sides of this island platform station. Okay, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her into the left of the station. Sorry, to the right of the station from where it's travelling, and then towards the side that's facing us. Okay, so it gives us a good idea about what this locomotive is like over points. And we're going to have a closer look at her later on as well. So let's have a look now. So we'll go forward. Away she goes. Now look at that. Look at that. Okay, I've absolutely no complaints about that running nature characteristics there. So it's at the curve, okay, and the point is directly on the curve. There's no straight track, it just goes straight onto the curve there. And that's two right hand points joined together to form the junction, okay. So that went straight over a right hand point without any trouble whatsoever. Perfect, okay. Then we'll just try in reverse. I think that clunk was just me on the controller, so don't worry about that. Now then, okay, so it did that perfectly well, okay, no problems there. It's not derailed. And then we're going to pull her into the station here now, into the mainline station. Oh, oh, oh. Right. And again, over the point she goes. And you can watch her elegantly glide into the station here now. And perhaps you can imagine that. This locomotive is actually pulling the Pines Express. Okay. The Pines Express would have had a restaurant car on it. I think the Pines Express ran between Bournemouth and Manchester. Okay, one of the many trains which were going over the Somerset and Dorset, taking people from the north of England to their happy holidays in the West Country, or in the south of England in Bournemouth. Okay, now we can have a closer look at this locomotive while it's in here. SDJR on the tender there, number 44. You can see from here it's a 440 engine configuration, and I think these came onto the summer. Certainly were manufactured from about the late 1920s into the early 1930s, and the actual journey, which is described in Donald Bill's book there from the Somerset and Dorset Railway Trust. That actually describes a journey northbound with the Pines in I think it was in May 1935. Okay, I think the Pines Express ran daily between Manchester and Bournemouth. It was basically the star train of the actual Somerset and Dorset, and really through trains from the north from the north down to the south was really the main reason for the Somerset and Dorset's existence. Okay. Beautiful Prussian blue livery. This is something I've been meaning to get for ages. I just wanted one for ages. Even though I'm a GWR collector, I've had a bit of a mini obsession about the Somerset and Dorset for many years. Okay, for many years, and I do intend to get out onto the Somerset and Dorset joint railway as soon as possible. Maybe after the winter. I mean, I'm sorry if there's been a bit of a gap between my last video and this one. I actually tested positive for COVID and it laid me low for a little while. I'm negative now and they've all sorted out, but it did lay me low for quite a while, and I keep falling asleep, to be honest with you. But never mind, that's about me. But that explains why I've not been doing videos for a little while. But you can see there the beautiful livery of this engine. Okay, Hornby, obviously from 2001. So we're talking about a 20-year-old model railway locomotive here, 20 years old, and it's going strong. Okay. Now, whether or not you can say that in 20 years' time about some of the stuff we're buying now, I do not know. Okay. One of the benefits of this particular locomotive, even though it's tender powered, is that it's got a sort of a ring-filled style motor in the tender. I think it's similar to the mainline Dean Goods, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll have to have a look at that just to make sure, but it looks like the mechanism very, very similar to the mainline Dean Goods, what's in this tender. But you can change the brush and springs. You can give the motor a good clean. If it should burn out, you can probably clean it and get it going again. Remagnetise it, wherever. Whereas with the modern motors, okay, they're sealed for life, okay. But if one of those motors goes pop, and you can't get a new motor, then you're in basically in the deep doggy doos, okay. So not much not much you can really do about it unless you can get a replacement motor. But this, the plus point is you can. It's a little bit noisier because there's a lot of gearing between the motor and the driven wheels of the tender. But I think I can forgive this on a 20-year-old locomotive. Absolutely perfect. Now, if you want a review of the loco driven one, that was reviewed by Sam's Trains. He's got a very, very good review on one. I'd recommend you looking on his review of this, okay? But for me now, we're looking at the tender driven. To be honest with you, I wasn't sure whether I was getting the tender driven or getting the loco driven one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run around the track a little bit more, and then we're going to be possibly having a closer look at her on my Lazy Susan turntable. But we'll just reverse her out. In the reverse, I guess. There we go. So off she goes. Now where would such a reversal take place like this? On the Somerset in Dorset? Probably at Temple Combe, where the train had to be drawn in and pulled out again of Temple Combe before it carried on its way down onto the Somerset in Dorset. It actually stopped at Temple Combe station, which was on the Southern Railway main line. But that's another story for another day. Now then, we're going to put her into 4th gear. And you can see how well it ran over points. I'm not going to run it over the other points because it's a very, very similar junction. I've done it already, and I won't do it this on film for you. Now we're going to put it into 4th gear, and away we go. Very nice runner. Very, very nice little runner, this one. And away we go. Oh, did I change the points? That is the question. I did. Okay. Right. And away we go with the Pines Express again. Now, possibly one of the reasons why these 4 roads were made is that the Midland Railway had a very much a small engine policy. And obviously 4 portos being built as late as 1927 or whenever they were built, late 1920s. The particular 2Ps. Then that obviously meant that there would be on the Somerset in Dorset later on, there'll be a lot of double heading going on. And in fact, in the later years of the service of these locomotives, they were actually used as pilot engines. So you had the more powerful engine on the train itself, and then these were actually go in front offering assistance. Okay, so they were still seen on double headers. They were all finally withdrawn in 1962. And there are none actually preserved. Okay. Now, as far as the Somerset and Dorset Railway is concerned, some people might have regarded that as being a little bit mean withdrawing such faithful engines. But by then, 9Fs have been brought onto the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. And they should have done away with the need for pilot engines. Okay. The 2Ps by then, with a maximum load of 200 tonnes, would probably even end up being used on more like local services. But even by the late 1950s, early 60s, the Western region of British Rail gained control of Somerset and Dorset Railway. They were beginning to graft in some of their own engines. A lot of standard engines were starting to appear, and certainly on the the branch line from Evercreech to Burnham, you were seeing a lot of the Collet goods. But the 2P were very, very good locomotives, gave very many years of good service. Now Prussian Blue, that's the original livery of the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Now, as far as reading material is concerned, I mean, obviously, in some ways, it's a specialised subject, really. I mean, it's one railway, really, that ran really between Burnham and Poole or Bournemouth, or from Bath to Bournemouth. Okay. But there is a lot of reading material around which I can recommend for you. If you can get these books, they're very much good reading material for you. Okay, we're going to zoom right out. The Somerset and Dorset Railway by Robin Attill. Very, very good read. And there you are. SDJR. Look at that, a 440. Not the same as the one I've got here, not this particular 2P. Not exactly the same, but very similar. I think they might be the Johnson ones. SDJR, look at that, in a beautiful Prussian blue livery. The Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway Trust came out with a number of books. I've got them all, I think, but I've got Donald Bill, Somerset and Dorset there. Okay. And then there's also books by Norman Lockett, Ivo Peters. And one that you could pick up reasonably inexpensively is R.C. Riley. I think it was Dick Riley. The Colour of Steam. And again, they're showing a Class 2P locomotive piloting another engine. Looks like it could be a 9F. I don't know. I can't be too sure. You'll correct me on that, because obviously I'm looking at this and my mind was a bit dozy this time of the evening. But anyway, never mind. That's 40653. So you can look at this beautiful engine and imagine it going over the Pines Express. Pulling the Pines Express. Maybe slogging up the hill from Bath. And then from Radstock up to Madsbury, or from Evercreech Junction to Madsbury Summit. I'm going to pull her over in a minute, and you can see it's a very, very nice runner. Really lovely. I'm really getting into this locomotive now. I'm going to have a proper closer look at her. I'll just bring her in. I'm going to uncouple her. I'm going to put her onto the Lazy Susan. Okay, we've seen her running now. And we'll have a quick look at her. Oh dear. Right, let's take a look now. There we are. Okay, so let's see if we can uncouple her. Perfect. Oh, get one of these if you can. Manual uncoupler, like a spade, but helps you to uncouple your locomotives. My view is if you can make life easier, why not? Now, we're on the turntable now. Okay, we'll see if we can get as much light on this as possible. And we're going to change the camera angle slightly so we can have a proper look at her. Okay, so we're going to come down a bit lower. Yeah, okay. There we go. Oh yeah, okay. Right. We can zoom in a little. That's the closer we need to get. Right, we can see that on the tender there, SDJR. Okay, Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Nice bit of lining on it, white lining as well. On the cab you can see it's number 44. You can clearly see the 440 wheel arrangement down there as well. Absolutely perfect, okay. And it's looking magnificent in its Prussian blue livery there. Moving on to the front of the locomotive, so we can get on there nice and easy. Number 44, look, you can see that right in the middle of the smoke box. I think all the detail that on there, no, there's a separately fitted rail on the front of there. It's got the nice vacuum pipe on the front there too. A hook on the middle of the bumper, not middle of the buffer, sorry. Well, I said bumper. SDJR. Okay. On the buffer beam as well. Moving on to the other side. Very much the same on this side. See the beautiful Prussian blue livery again. Now the cab on this particular Hornby model is not detailed in any way. It's basically all black inside. Okay, and I do believe that the current, the newest version of this, which is loco driven, it was reviewed by Sam's Trains. That one doesn't have a decorated cab either. Okay, I'm going to spruce that up with a loco crew, I think. SDJR again on there. And on the tender we can just about see there. Always obviously with the darker liveries it's harder to pick out everything. We can see the hook there. Oh, the buffers front and back are metal but they're not sprung. But for me, I'm not that fussed about sprung buffers. Some people say they're a premium feature to have, but you know, is it something that costs money that could be spent elsewhere? I don't know. That's my opinion, okay? Now then, but then again, it's a nice feature to have, do actually show a premium locomotive. Now, let's go a little bit higher up. We'll have a more of a higher up view. Now, things we'll be looking at now, we're going right up here now, we're getting air sick. Here we go. Ah, there we are, we're on our locomotive now. There you can clearly see the colo. The colo looks quite nice actually on this particular one, I like that. It's not a pile too high, I mean considering the motors and the tender, not too bad. There's your filler caps there at the back. Okay, and you can see into the cap there as well. But you can see it's all black there. No decoration in there. There, you can see the colour a lot more clearly now. The cab detail. There is cab detail in there, but it's not basically it's not picked out. I do believe the whistles back there, you can see just in front of the cab, they are metal. They look like metal to me anyway. No, it looks very, very nice. Okay, now, would I recommend you seek out one of these models? If you're a Somerset and Dorset joint railway fan and you want a 2P, obviously there's only one way to go. And that's buying the Hornby one. I don't think anybody else came out with the 2P, with the Farther class 2Ps. Brilliant models, okay. Where these would sit in today's day and age, they would sit very, very happily in the railroad range. Okay. If they were to come out with a more super detailed one, then obviously what they would do is they would give it a super detailed cab and all that kind of stuff. But that would might be the only, and sprung buffers, that might be the only enhancement they can make to it. Obviously, the more modern one is loco driven, and so it's a bit more quiet as well. I mean, obviously things have moved on since in the last 20 years in that respect. But I don't mind it being tender driven. Like I say, it's got the ability. You've got the ability to repair the motor if something should happen to it. Okay. And that to me is something which is very, very important. Repairability. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our locomotive back onto the track. I'm going to give her a little run round again. Okay, so we're going to give her another little run round. So I'm going to put everything over to there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Move our lazy Susan away. And we're just going to get the railing ramp. Now again, as with what I said about getting yourself an uncoupler of some kind, a railing ramp again makes life so much easier. There we are, so that's our locomotive safely on the tracks. I'm ready to reverse back to pick up its train again. Now you're going to see this particular locomotive again in another video, because I've got some LMS coaches coming for it. Okay, so obviously it's an LMS engine, so we're looking at some LMS coaches. At the moment it's got the Livery GWR coaches. We'll see if we couple up. If we haven't, we can soon remedy it. Oh, there we go, we have coupled. Okay, so round we go. As you can hear, like I say, it's a little bit noisier than the more modern offerings. But I'm willing to have a little bit of noise. It means I can actually service the motor. It came in lovely condition, this particular one. Probably the only thing I had to do to this was that the loco wheels were not that free running, let's say. They're a little bit stiff, and obviously if the mod has been sat in the box for a long time, which it may possibly have been, then you do find this is happening. I might always put my locos shot onto the track, especially for a second hand, to see if they'll run. And I know where I'm starting from, really. And then with this particular one, I gave it a nice oiling. So it's had a nice oil, and it's running beautifully now. You can almost hear it sort of thanking me for the attention I've given it to it. Like I say, I've had to use Great Western coaches tonight, Livery coaches, but they're very, very similar to the LMS. Certainly in the Hornby point of view, I think they're quite similar to the LMS ones anyway, Livery coaches. The only other coaches which are available that I know of, which are S&D, there was a special edition made by Dapple, and they are so hard to get. They're a special edition. I cannot find any for sale anywhere. But if I do, I'm going to get them, of course, and I'll have a whole Prussian blue train then. But I think it looks quite nice actually with this Livery stock here. So I'll give it a kind of a Pullman style look. And in fact, the Pines Express was the prestige train of the Somerset in Dorset, and it would have been obviously it would have put a dining room car and everything else. It would, it was really the train. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to let this run round a few more times, so we're going to call it a night, okay? Now, if you've enjoyed watching this video, obviously click the thumbs up button, see if you like what you see. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and also ring that bell. You'll be made aware of other videos. And I will also say thank you very, very much for all the various all the people who've subscribed to my channel. Obviously it's a relatively small channel. I think we're about 80. We're getting near the 80 mark now on our subscribers. But I'm very, very grateful for all those people who subscribed. I mean, I only just started this particular thing for the lockdown, and I'm very, very pleasantly surprised and happy with the growth of this channel. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bid you farewell. Thank you very much for watching and for your interest, and thank you very much, and good night.